everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about, fabulous fictional females and their stories and how they influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Fonda.
And my name is Alison.
Today, Alison is taking us on what will be a journey. Just to get it out there right now, this is part 1 of maybe 4.
We are currently at 4.
Currently. So to let you know, this is the first time we're doing a not a 2-parter even, but a parter, I guess, a quarter series.
Yeah.
Who's to say? Alison has a lot of wonderful female characters that she wants to talk about from True Blood.
Yeah.
So much so that she's like, why don't I just do 4 parts right now? Things could change.
Yeah.
About the different characters in it. And I was like, I got nothing else to do.
Yeah. Why don't I just do all of them?
So they'll be split up between mine and hers, but for the next 3 after this, Alison's are going to be focusing on True Blood characters.
Yes. I actually just finished rewatching the whole series, so that's kind of what got me in the mood. Because, it's all so fresh in my mind, and True Blood is one of those, comfort series for me.
It's a comfort series for you?
Yeah, it's probably says a lot about me and my, mental state.
Just a tad, Alison.
A horror drama, freaking
Sex,
it's just all, trauma and, emotions, and it's...
God.
But I love it, and in my opinion, it has probably one of the strongest, first seasons of, I think, any television show. The first season is, holy shit. The first season is amazing.
Okay, I know the show's been out for a while.
Yes.
When I was in grade 8, I remember someone was like, hey, Fonda, want to come over and watch True Blood? And I was like, sure. I just met you in grade 8. I want to be friends with you. Yeah, I would love to come over and watch something with vampires. Right away, there was a dude fucking a chick behind a dumpster.
Literally, every episode.
That was that was my first episode. I don't know what episode that was in the season, but I remember witnessing that, and she's like, it's fun, right? And I was in a place in my life, Alison would know this, I was very sheltered with sex things, and so I was like, I'm good. No thanks. So how long has it been out?
So, True Blood is an HBO TV series based on novels by Charlaine Harris, titled The Southern Vampire Series.
It's called The Southern Vampire Series?
That's what it's called. I've never read them.
I love that.
Apparently they're relatively similar. I personally have never read them, so we're not going to be talking about those today.
Okay, good to know.
But the TV show started in 2008, ran for 7 seasons, ending in 2014.
In 2008?
2008 was
That's
when
almost
season 1 came out.
13 years. And I only know that because I started dating my husband in 2008. So whenever anyone's like, 2008, I immediately know how long it's been for that time.
So I, probably among many people, watched this show when I was in high school, which was probably not... I don't think I was the target demographic. Let's put it that way.
They might not have intended it to be, but nothing... I don't think any, adult show ever thinks, hey, teens are gonna watch it. Because we just do whatever we want as teens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's been tons of teens who've probably watched Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we were I remember... Because obviously we were not allowed to watch this at my house either. That was not a thing. But I remember going over to my grandparents' house, and my sister and I
Was that your grandparents' house?
No, we had a movie store just up the street, and so we would wait until the season came out on DVD. We would go up, we would rent the entire season, and we would binge the season in a weekend. They're only ever 7 to 10 episodes, so it wasn't horrible, but we would watch the entire season in a weekend and then return it.
That's a big deal.
It was
for
a big
any
deal.
listeners that are 10 years younger than us. I'm going to say. That's a big deal to watch a whole series in a weekend. It's not like, I mean, now with all these streaming services, you can watch series within a day.
Yeah, and, like, I've only ever watched the show, like, beginning to end through twice. But I've seen the first season probably 5 times.
Okay.
Like, I love the season. It's kind of a complete story. It's one of those things that, like, the first season, you really don't know if you're going to get continued. So you kind of tell a whole compact story. It's an excellent season of television. And I remember, I'm not sure exactly how, like, true any of this. It's really hard to, like narrow down and find concrete facts about what people were saying about a television show, not what people were writing about it.
That's true. But fandoms were different.
Yeah. Like, I remember at the time, live journals and MySpace.
Oh, fun. Did you ever have, did you ever have a live journal?
I did. I 100% had a live journal. I'm really glad I don't have the password to it anymore.
I know.
That it's lost to the ether of the internet. Because I don't want to read what I wrote on there. That is not a time travel trip I want to take.
Fair.
But kind of at the time, I feel like this was the show that, like, really solidified the, like, HBO is the adult channel. Because this show, more so than I think all the other shows, I haven't watched, like, that many HBO shows, but, like, it was sex in every single episode multiple times. When I was rewatching this, Nick would come downstairs, and I swear to God, every single time he fucking came downstairs,
there's people fucking.
There were people fucking, and he's like, "Are you just watching porn?" And I'm like, "No, there's a story."
You're like, "There's plot,"
but it is a lot of sex. But, like, that's one of the things that I think that I latched onto so much about it is at that time in my life, sex wasn't really a thing that we talked about at my house, and I've always found it very, like, interesting in, like, an actual, like, educational purpose, not, like, horny all the time kind of interesting, but actually, like, as a part of life and as a part of connection and the way that people, like, live together and, like, experience life together. So I've always found it to be, like, an actual, like, interesting thing to learn about in, like, even in a science sense too. And so watching this show where they were exploring sex, relationships, trauma, like
supernatural things,
supernatural stuff. But a lot of this show uses vampirism and, like, monster kind as an allegory and a metaphor for otherness in the real world. So they so they use it to explore, like, LGBTQ rights and, like, civil rights and, like, discrimination and xenophobia, and so they use it as a way to heighten and explore these things in a supernatural way that would make people be like, "Oh, well, I really like this vampire. It's shitty that these people are being mean to them." And it's like, it's shitty when you're being mean to a person because they're gay too, or because they're a different skin color than you. It's like, it's kind of using it in that way.
Yeah.
But
or because they're poor.
Or because they're poor. And it also doesn't shy away from actually having those issues in there as well. So there is still, like, other race issues and those kinds of things. So they didn't just forget about the issues that they're using as a metaphor.
That's
so
important.
They use both of them. Don't get me wrong. It's a show from 2000s. There's problems.
I was gonna ask if that's something that you would discuss, or if you're gonna leave it as is because you want to focus strictly on the. Oh, it's good to talk about the things that aren't great.
Yes,
but it's also good to understand that when something is a product of its time, it's good to be aware it's a product of its time. But it's good to acknowledge the more positive, the more progressive things that it did do.
Yeah, and this show did do a lot of, like, progressive and positive things. In the next episode that I do, when we talk about a character named Tara, she is the black female, like, one of the, like, or she is the, like, the black best friend, which is it's a horrible trope. And unfortunately her character falls into a lot of, like, quite negative stereotypes in regards to black female characters, and it's really unfortunate, but, like, the more I watched the show, the more that I came to appreciate her character and the depth that the actress has brought to it. There were definitely better ways that they could have handled it. There will be a little sidebar into her cousin, who's Lafayette. He is fucking amazing. One of the most, in my development, iconic queer characters that I've ever seen on television.
Oh.
He's wears makeup and calls people hooker all the time.
Okay.
So we'll be getting into those two, and that is the biggest pitfall of the show, is how it has treated its characters of color, which is quite unfortunate.
Oh.
A product of its time. It's one of those things that it's like, I can see where its pitfalls are, but I still love the show, and it's still really fun, and all the characters, I still think that the show has value.
That's good. So going back to, again,
Yes.
who specifically are we focusing on today?
So today, we are focusing on Sookie Stackhouse. She is our main heroine of the show.
Okay. Sookie?
Sookie.
How do I spell it?
Sookie.
I would have thought there would have been a U.
No.
Okay.
So pretty much anybody who's in the True Blood fandom, and anybody who is even tangentially involved in the True Blood fandom, has a way that we all, like, recognize each other by the way we say Sookie. Because there's a character named Bill, who we will get into, who she falls in love with, and he says it, Sookie. This really low, like, Sookie Stackhouse. And it's like, everybody has southern accents. It takes place in the South. It's fine.
Okay.
But, like, there are videos of the actors from the whole show. Like, every actor on the show has a way of mimicking the way that he says it. And it's, like, this huge joke. Because everybody makes fun of him for it. Because it's this, he doesn't even say it that bad.
I'm looking up, like, I'm laughing because while doing it, there's a lot of characters in the show, so
many.
I wanted to bring up the IMDb cast list so I could see the visuals, and I'm just kind of finding it funny as I'm doing that, because I can see they're like, you know, like when you can tell how someone's moving their mouth to pronounce a word.
Yeah.
I picture it for this person that you're talking about.
And the funny part is that he's English, so he has, like, a hard British accent. He never did a southern accent before he came to, like...
Really?
Interview for the job, and he got it. And then him and Anna Paquin, who plays Sookie, fell in love.
Anna Paquin. I hope you get in some other good roles, because the X-Men universe did you wrong when they introduced... just a side tangent very quickly, I hope this is okay. When they introduced Rogue as, like, the main person you were exploring the X-Men from, you know, like, she had this traumatic experience that by touching her boyfriend, she killed him. Mm-hmm. And then she's going through all this other stuff, and it's like, she's, like, the main character we're learning everything through. And then the next ones come because it was a box office hit, and it's just like, she's no longer a focus character anymore, and I feel like they did her dirty.
I know.
So I'm glad they didn't do her dirty.
No, she is, like, the main character of the whole shebang, and her and Stephen Moyers, the actor who plays Bill, they met on the set, and they ended up falling in love, and they got married.
How cute.
And they have babies now.
How
and
cute.
You can 100% tell, like, the chemistry that brings to their, like, relationship on screen. It's freaking electric. It's incredible. And we're going to get into that too, but we're going to quickly take you through a quick information about the world of True Blood before we, like, really get into it.
TLDR me, Alison.
Yeah, I will. I'll try. So as I mentioned, it takes place in a southern town, Louisiana. It is fictional, named Bon Temps. The story...
Bon Temps.
Bon Temps.
Bon Temps.
Also, like... It's really hard not to just, like, want to talk in a southern accent, because that's, like, thinking of this show, all I hear is everybody's southern accents. And it's just, it bombards you.
Nice.
The story mostly follows Sookie, a telepathic waitress that we meet first as she is waitressing at the local watering hole titled Merlot's, or called Merlot's.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Merlot.
Nope. Not this time. The show, as we've covered, deals with a lot of adult themes. It's classified as fantasy, horror, drama kind of blend of genres.
Okay.
So that I can kind of reference them a little bit more, I'm going to give like a 1-sentence explanation of each season. There's only 7, and they're pretty quick. So season 1 deals with a serial killer who is murdering women who are sympathetic towards vampires, also known as fangbangers.
What?
That is the derogatory term for people who fuck vampires.
I hate it so much.
Thanks, I hate it.
I hate it so much. It was just like, what things rhyme? Fang and bang. Let's call it fang bangers.
Yeah.
I'm just getting a really weird visual image where it's just the teeth doing the...
Well, because that's a lot of, like, the visual aesthetics of, like, vampires and penetration and, like, everything and danger, and it all kind of mixes together to make everything, like, this fucked up, scary blob of sexy that doesn't make sense but works for some people, me included. Fonda's always been more of a werewolf gal, don't get me wrong. Werewolves are coming.
They are? In
of course
more than
werewolves
one way?
exist. In all the ways.
In all the ways they're coming? I hate how dirty this is getting already! I'm so vanilla! I'm so...
This is the whole reason I wanted to do this.
Fuck! I'm already curling my toes! Okay, keep going.
We're just getting started. In order to find a 2,000-year-old vampire... Season 2. In order to find a 2,000-year-old vampire, Sookie must infiltrate the Church of the Sun, a group of anti-vampire religious fanatics run by Steve and Sarah Newlin. Meanwhile, her childhood best friend Tara has fallen in with a mysterious, wealthy woman named Marianne, who turns out to be a Maenad, an immortal follower of Dionysus. Oh, that season? It's just orgies everywhere because of Dionysus. Yeah. Just drinking and orgies and parties.
Is Dionysus their own one, or is this Dionysus?
Oh, Dionysus, sorry.
That's
I pronounced
okay.
it wrong.
I
always said Dionysus, but that was my bad.
I just wanted to double check, because I was like, maybe
guy.
there's an influence, and they just had to adjust it for things. Okay, same dude. Same Greek god. Yeah. All about parties
One of them
and wine.
Read it when I was younger a lot.
Hey, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. I 100% understand.
Yeah, so season 2 is wild.
Okay.
Just off the charts. Okay. Totally wild.
Okay, bonkers.
Season 3. We are introduced to the were creatures, specifically werewolves and were-panthers, because fuck, why not?
I love a multitude of were creatures. Werebears, hello.
Yes. We also get a new antagonist in Russell Edgington, a very powerful vampire who does not want to follow the rules laid down by the Vampire Authority, which is like vampire government.
His last name is Edgington.
It's Edgington.
Because he's an edgelord. Is he an edgy boy?
No. Oh my gosh. He is played by, let me find this actor's name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it straight.
Russell Edgington is played by Dennis O'Hare, and it's just, he seems to just have the most fun. He gets to, like, rip people's hearts out and, like, just murder and kill everybody, and oh my gosh, he just seemed like he had so much fun on this show. And just really had fun with the character, and it's just horribly evil, but you love him because he just gets so much joy in being so evil and just murdering people.
Oh, okay. I've never felt that, but okay. Can't relate.
So yeah, he doesn't want to follow the rules that the Vampire Authority tells you have to follow.
Fair.
Tara also experiences some very traumatic events, and Sookie discovers that she is in fact part fairy, which is why she can read people's minds.
So is her brother a fairy?
No, it's like a weird bloodline thing. So she has just a little bit of fairy in her. So,
not enough that she would have, like, wings?
No, I think it's her great-great-grandpa. So she doesn't have wings, but she has a power called her light, where she can actually, like, blast people with, like, light magic, and then she can read people's minds. But she finds out much later that if she uses too much of her light power, she can actually lose it, and then she would become
human
again, like full human again. So she could use up her fairy powers.
Interesting.
Very fancy. Season 4, Sookie returns from a fairy realm where she had been whisked away to. And it turns out she has actually been gone for 6 months instead of just a few minutes. And everything has changed.
Don't we just love the Feywilds?
It's great. What is time?
What is time in the Feywilds? Let's ask our Tegan.
Her friends had given up hope of finding her, and Bill is now Vampire King of Louisiana. Because, yeah. A coven of witches has also arrived to Bontemps, led by Marnie, which is another character. We're going to be talking about a lot of the villains. We're going to have a whole episode on just the female villains of this show.
Are we still only at 4 parts? Or as we do this, are you
like,
thinking
the
of
villains are their one part. Then we have a Tara Jessica episode, which is another vampire lady. And then we have, like, an honorable mentions women, where we're just going to run through how badass some of the other female characters are. Okay. It's fine. I have it planned. It's okay. It's going to be fine. These are probably going to be really long episodes. I'm not sorry.
Okay.
So this coven of witches arrives, and it only becomes a problem when they begin to dabble in necromancy. And the vampires must get involved, because vampires are dead people, and if you practice necromancy, you can control vampires.
Oh, this is giving me ideas for Dungeons and Dragons. Not gonna lie.
Right?
I never thought of it that way, but they are classified as undead.
Yeah.
Well.
After being shot, season 5, after being shot, Tara has now been turned into a vampire, and the vampire authority is overthrown by a radical vampire group that includes our good guy vamps that we'll get into. So it actually includes a lot of the characters that we've become sympathetic to.
Okay.
As well as a now free and healed Russell Edgington, because they beat him and buried him under concrete. And now he got free, and he actually healed, and now he's fucking shit up again.
Fully buried under concrete?
Yeah.
Or like in dirt, which is underneath a layer of concrete?
Surrounded by concrete. They had to jackhammer him out. Because when you're a vampire, you just rot away for a very long time. You don't die quickly. You don't die of starvation. You just, like, shrivel.
Thanks, Kate.
For hundreds of years. And in order to upset the whole system, they blow up some True Blood factories, which True Blood is the synthetic blood that has allowed vampires to come out of the coffin, as it were, in the show.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So that way they don't have to eat humans, and they can come and be in public. But they now blow up these factories, forcing vampires to return to their original ways of procuring blood. Sookie learns...
out of curiosity, is it just, like, North America, Mexico? Like, is it just, like, our certain continents, like,
the whole world is where the vampires exist. Okay. They are not aware of other supernatural beings at this point in time.
How the fuck are they not? How can you...
Because other supernatural creatures in this show are much more... secretive. They don't want people mussing in their business. So they just stay the fuck out of it.
I feel like if I lived in this town, I'd be like typing a blog up. You know, I'd be like, listen, guys, okay, I saw a werepanther and a werewolf with a vampire tonight. I'm just saying.
They're quite insular societies, though, and these are quite small towns. So they're, like, far enough away that there's not really a lot of stuff. Like, the werepanthers are, like, their own little town called Hot Shot.
I feel
where it's just the werepanthers.
I feel like no shade to Stephanie Meyer, but this sounds like Twilight maybe either didn't know True Blood existed or was like, I need to make a teen version of True Blood.
Who knows?
Because small towns, you know, one girl suddenly having weird, similar mind-related powers. One reads minds, one can't. Oh, hot boys, werewolves.
Everybody wants to fuck Sookie, apparently.
Okay, everyone also...
every single boyfriend she has is supernatural.
Oh.
In the show.
Are people just, like, naturally attracted to fairies? Is there something about them that people are like...
We'll get into that when we get into that. But yes, fairies are special.
Okay, let's keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought of some similarities.
Okay. Yeah, also in season 5, Sookie finds out that her parents were killed by a vampire named Warlow. Since one of her ancestors, so I think it's her great-great-grandpa, had promised him their firstborn kin of Fey blood, which is Sookie, as in, like, here is your fairy bride.
Dick move. It's a dick. That's a dick move to
It's
do.
pretty shitty. So Warlow ended up killing her parents. So that's a thing.
Did they kill her parents? Like, were her parents alive up until this season, or were her parents
No,
dead?
sorry. Her parents died when she was a child, so she was raised by her grandmother.
Got you. Thank you. Okay.
Yes. And they had always thought that it was just like an accident, just like a car crash, but they were actually murdered.
Sons of bitches.
So in season 6, in retaliation for everything that has happened with the True Blood factories getting blown up, the governor of Louisiana, along with Sarah Newlin, who we mentioned earlier, she's one of the crazy church people, start up a research facility for vampires. It is basically a vampire concentration camp where they can study and torture them. They also create a disease that they plan to distribute through True Blood. When they open up the factories again, they're going to put the disease in it, and they call that Hep V. Yeah. Sookie is considering becoming Warlow's bride after she finds out that her parents were planning to kill her. To keep her from him.
What?
So she's going through a lot in season 6.
That's so...
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But he eventually shows his true colors and he gets killed, which is good. We'll talk about Warlow, don't worry. This season, season 7.
The last season?
The last season, which is, but it's really hard when, like, there's so much story. I find final seasons are really difficult to get that, like, truly satisfying ending, but I understand why it ended the way that it did, and I agree with the way that certain stories ended, and that was the way that it had to end.
Okay. But
it was definitely on the decline, which is, fair. This season, the last season deals with the fallout after the release of this Hep V. And this virus basically turns vampires into rage zombies. Really creepy. Like, it's probably one of the biggest, horror seasons, of the show. And, at least in my opinion, they begin decimating entire towns. And, there's a scene where they go to a town where all of the people have been, eaten by vampires or removed from there to be kept in cells and stuff so the vampires can feed off of them. And there's writing on the walls, apocalyptic, Jesus save us and shit, and it's scary and super creepy, and I loved all the zombie vibes of it. Just not really fit in this show. Bontemps seems to be the next town on the list, and they must find a way to survive through it. Turns out that Sarah Newlin had actually drank the cure for this Hep V, and so they
vampires
find her, and as long as they eat from her, they can be cured. One of the other characters ends up taking her and monopolizing her and making a bunch of money on it. That's his happy ending.
Ew. I can't even imagine. No.
Well, they can synthesize blood. They've gotten used to that, so they are able to synthesize her blood, but he has the source. And so they begin curing the infected vampires, and then the story kind of ends with a lot of drama and a lot of death. So many people die. And then we get a flash forward and everybody's having a happy ending that gets to live. And the world goes back to normal and people, it's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, those are all the seasons. Pretty wild. It's an intense show. The werewolves are fine.
Thank God.
Yeah, the werewolves are fine.
My fluffy anthropomorphic doggos.
Yeah, they're aggressive in the show.
Okay.
We'll get into it.
Okay.
When we talk about Alcide. Oh. Another one of Sookie's boyfriends. Oh. It's fine.
Okay.
Sookie's dated all of the monsters. So
well, I mean, monster fuckers, right? They gotta get around.
Sookie's like
they
queen monster fucker, honestly.
She must have like the experiences.
One character that we are going to talk about in one of the like other episodes, her name is Pam.
Pam.
She was a sex worker in her like old life in like the Old West. She is sassy as fuck, and she does not like Sookie because everybody is obsessed with her quote fairy cunt unquote.
Oh no.
Pam is vulgar and so fabulous, and I love Kim.
I hate that word. There's certain words that, you know, just like make you not feel great.
Yeah.
That one is one for me.
It's just so funny in a southern accent. I can't do it. I'm bad at it.
In Australia say it. It's kind of like their version of bitch. Like, I get it. It's not a bad word. I just don't like hearing it.
That's
for
fair.
some reason. It just sounds really aggressive. You know, like the part is like a aggressive throat sound.
I get it.
Anyways.
So, 30 minutes in. Let's really dig into Sookie.
Okay. I'm ready.
This first episode was always going to be long. The other ones, because I won't have to do so much background, will be better and quicker. So Sookie Stackhouse is a waitress, as I mentioned.
Yep.
At the beginning of the show, she is like very naive and innocent, literally like a virgin archetype. So she's never had sex before at the very beginning of the show.
Okay.
And she's been somewhat sheltered from the cruel world.
By her, grandma?
By her grandma. And although she has the telepathic abilities, and because she has these telepathic abilities, it's kind of ostracized her and made her an outcast in her small town. Because it must be pretty hard to hear people's thoughts all the time, especially in a small town where everybody... She can kind of control it, but when she is having when she's not emotionally stable, so when she's like in turmoil or stressed or anything, she has a harder time controlling it.
That's fair.
But particularly strong thoughts can break through. And when you're in a small town, everybody's nose is in everybody else's fucking business. And so she has to constantly hear, like, as a waitress, she's hearing, like, guys think about her ass as she's walking away. Or, like, shit like that. And so she has to kind of try and filter all that away. And I imagine that can make you kind of, the way you deal with that probably makes you seem like a fucking weirdo. And people do think she's a weirdo. But...
Probably because they assume her reactions are making her socially awkward, is the word I'm...
Yes. When she was a child, her parents tried to go get her diagnosed in the show, and the doctor said she was slow. But it's like, it's because she's hearing everybody's thoughts. It's not because she's dumb.
Yeah. Or not...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I hate when someone uses slow.
Yeah.
It's like the same as someone using the... I don't want to say the word, but...
No, it's bad.
Yeah.
So that happened to her. So she grew up pretty, like, ostracized. Luckily, she had a friend in Tara. So Tara is her childhood friend. Tara was also, unfortunately, quite ostracized from the community because her mother was an alcoholic and her father left when she was young, and they were quite poor. So Tara was over at Sookie's house all the time.
Okay.
So they kind of grew up, like, a little closer as, like, sisters. So that's a very sweet relationship. But yeah, like, the virgin part kind of comes into it, too, because, like, can you imagine how hard that would be to be, like, a teen girl or, like, just hearing all the thoughts and everything? It's like, how the fuck can you get comfortable enough to, like... want to do anything with somebody when you hear all of their unfiltered, like, purest thoughts.
Imagine getting catcalled and hearing what they might be saying outwardly, and then hearing what they're saying internally.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a
of,
fucking
like,
horror show.
You trust people too.
Yeah.
If someone's like saying a lie to your face, and then you hear what they actually might think on the inside, I think I would have a hard time, like, making connections with anybody.
Yeah. But surprisingly, like, it just made Sookie a kinder person. Like, she really wants to help people. She's quite empathetic. She understands that their thoughts are not necessarily their words, kind of thing. And so she's extremely understanding and extremely empathetic, to her detriment sometimes. But yeah, Sookie, not only is she a fairy, her family is Fae royalty. So
What?
Sookie is a fairy princess.
Oh my god.
When she finds out, she's like, I'm a fucking fairy princess. It's amazing the way Anna Paquin delivers that line and the look on her face. It's so good. Okay. Because, like, can you imagine being, like, surrounded by all these cool, badass monsters?
Yeah.
And you're a fucking fairy princess.
So, how did the other how... Can you keep going?
The fairies... There's a bunch of shit that happened in the fairy realms. A lot of them died, for reasons that we don't really need to get into, because it doesn't she doesn't spend a lot of time with the fairies.
Okay. That threw me.
It's okay. But yeah, it's just funny because she's a fairy princess. By the time we get to the end of the show, she's gone through so much like heartbreak, and she's witnessed violence and atrocities, and still has found a way to have faith in people. She holds on to that goodness we see so clearly in the beginning. There are moments, though, where, like, you really don't know if she's going to be able to, like, make it back to that kindness again, because she does go through just so much. And throughout the show, we get to watch her discover herself, to learn about the world, and to, like, discover and explore her sexuality and her passions and her lusts and the things that drive her in a way that she never got to experience beforehand. So it's really like a liberating experience for her as much as it is a traumatic experience for her, going through life surrounded by monsters. Another big weakness in the show was just how much Sookie's relationships with her friends are set aside in favor of her romantic relationships, which is why a lot in this episode I'm going to be kind of touching on her romantic relationships specifically, because when we talk about the other characters, we're going to talk about their relationship to Sookie and kind of how they got along more. But a lot of her experience, like when we talk about Tara, we're going to talk a lot more about Sookie and Tara and how they kind of went together. But yeah, a lot of her growth came from going through these romantic relationships with these men.
Got you. Did she have any by chance?
No, she did not. There was there's tons of like, there's a lot of queer characters in the show. There's lots. Pam specifically. She's a lesbian, but having been a sex worker, she does have sex with guys, but she definitely prefers the female form, and is pretty crass about it, which is awesome. Lafayette is, I'm pretty sure he's gay, but it's not like that's the thing, is that like on shows like this where so many people are fluid in their sexuality, it's like they don't give you labels, but it's like there's a lot of fucking and there's a lot of like
noted
everybody fucks.
Noted.
So to kind of start a little bit more, like keep going with like Sookie for a little bit, at the beginning of her story, as I had mentioned, Sookie's parents died when she was quite young. They found out about the whole contract thing. And she was actually saved that night by her fairy godmother.
What the fuck?
Of all of the monsters to talk about, it is the hardest for me to, like, accept fairies, which I don't understand that block in my mind.
Fairies don't seem like monsters to me, though.
No, but they are in this show.
I mean, like, I've seen weird face shit, too. Yeah. Like, they can get scary, but I think it's just because of, like, you know, childhood renditions of fairies. They're never really depicted as, you know, vampires or witches or werewolves were, so I just picture, like, a pretty fairy godmother.
Yeah, they're pretty when they want to be. Yeah. So she was saved, and then her and her brother Jason end up being cared for by their grandmother, Adele. Jason is peak himbo energy, very dumb, tries to do the right thing, fucks up a lot, has a rough road, goes through some shit, but loves his sister, always wants to be there for him. Their relationship is quite, like, cute, because he obviously always knew that he could, like, read minds, and so That's kind of like a weird secret that helps to build a relationship. But Adele is such a sweet lady. She's definitely the one who like taught Sookie to be so empathetic and understanding, especially with her gifts. And she was actually the very first person in Bon Temps to open her home to Vampire Bill when he showed up. So Bill was the first vampire to show up in this small town.
Okay.
So obviously everybody's talking about it. And Adele is just like, yeah, come on in, because you have to be invited in this show. That is a thing. So you have to be invited into the house. So she invites him in. All the time,
or just like if you're invited once,
you can rescind their invitation, and then they get like ejected from the house. It happens a lot.
I would love that to be a real life thing with just anybody. If there's someone pissing you off.
Yeah, there's like, and then there's like a lot of stuff that they play with too. If you are not the owner of the house, you cannot rescind the invitation, and you cannot invite them in. Renting. Yeah, like they don't really touch on that because it's a small town. Most people own their houses. Yeah. But like you have to be like specifically like owner of it. And then there's also stuff too in the show where it's like, yeah, just because you're inside doesn't mean you're safe. They're still extremely strong, powerful creatures. Like they can still fuck you up from outside.
Yeah, imagine them chucking a rock through a window.
Yeah, so it's really cute. She treats Bill like a person and not a monster. So nice. Adele is an absolute sweetheart. As I mentioned, growing up with Tara, that was a really cute little relationship. Very cute friends. But a lot of the supernatural things that happened to Tara and Sookie, both separately and together, put a large strain on their friendship. And then bad stuff happens to Tara, which we'll get into in Tara's episode. The first great loss we experience with Sookie is when Adele is murdered in the first season. Yes. It is especially hard because the killer had been intending on killing Sookie herself, but Adele happened to be the one home at the time. The show does not shy away from allowing us to witness and experience grief along with Sookie. There are two particular big moments that I think of when it comes to like this pivotal moment in her life where she lost the most important figure in her home, the most important family member she has, that really made me connect with her. The first was after the killing. Once Adele's body had been taken away and it was no longer a crime scene, Sookie spends the rest of the night alone scrubbing the blood from the kitchen. Because she knows that her grandmother would have hated that her house that she took so much pride in was a mess. And it just showed this strength in Sookie and this sense of responsibility to the ones that she loves. And the second was after a disastrous wake when all of these people are just like coming into her house and like they're like, oh, like this is where she died. So Sookie's hearing their thoughts and they're like, oh, this is where she died, or oh, this is what happened. And like just that like small town gossip. Somebody takes out a pie that her grandmother had cooked, and Sookie is like, that's Gran's pie, like don't touch that. And then she kicks everybody out of the house, and so she's like kind of holding on to this last piece of her grandmother, and then she eats it one night. She like hits a point where she's ready to let go, and she sits there and she eats a whole fucking pie. Oh. And like it's just so cathartic watching that. And, like, experiencing that, like, it really does settle on grief. Like, a lot of shows do. Like, they're just like, oh, a person important to this person died, and we're just gonna forget about it, move on. Especially in, like, action shows or shows where there's supernatural things going on. They don't focus on that human element. Mm-hmm. And True Blood does. It brings you back to the humanity.
That's nice.
Really well.
That's nice.
Which is nice, and I love it. And yeah, like, it's just, like, and this time in particular, because this is the first time I'm rewatching the show after my own grandmother had died, so I'm just sitting on the couch fucking sobbing. like a crazy person. Just weeping about a fucking pecan pie. Aww. But it's good.
It's okay.
Her empathy and ability to keep caring is what I love so much about her. It is also why I connect with her so much. Like, for example, the killer in the first season turns out to be the husband of one of her fellow waitresses and her friend Arlene. And the way Sookie can later put aside her own pain to comfort and empathize with her friend is, like, extremely commendable. It's like, she could have taken that road. It's like, your husband fucking killed my grandma and killed all of these other women. Yeah. Like, but also she saw that Arlene was a victim too, because he had lied to her. Mm-hmm. He had like put on a fake accent and he had manipulated her and tricked her into falling in love with somebody that he wasn't. And so she finds a way to connect, which is so beautiful. So now we're going to talk about the boys.
Okay.
And
strap in, everybody.
Oh boy. I'm going as fast as I can, I promise. So we're going to start with Bill.
We both haven't had dinner yet. So
no, we haven't had dinner yet. I'm working hard.
You got this, girl.
I also just got done a 48-hour work week. I am sleepy.
And you have to DM tomorrow morning.
I sure do. So we're going to start with Bill. Bill is Sookie's very first love. Their relationship is so overwhelming and all-encompassing and obsessive, and it's all about like lust and temptation and exploration along with danger. So Bill is portrayed by Stephen Moyer, Anna Paquin's actual husband. So the reason why Sookie and Bill connect so much from the moment they meet, is because Sookie cannot read vampire thoughts. Because they are dead. So, for the first time in her entire life, she doesn't know what a man is thinking. And it's scary, but exciting. And super cool.
You're like, this is how normal people are.
So there's like a few episodes of like, will they, won't they kind of stuff.
Yeah,
where it's like, because she pushes him away because she's scared. And then her grandma convinces her to give him another chance. She's like, are you sure you aren't just pushing him away because you're scared because for the first time you don't know what somebody's thinking? And it's like, and so it's really sweet. And they have this like crazy relationship. Like all good TV relationships, though, it cannot last. Obviously, you can't be happy from the first season on to the end. That's not a thing. You're gonna
date other people because that's how TV shows happen to go, I guess. They can't be like, oh, one and done.
No, but throughout the entire time, Bill is and always will be Sookie's first love. As we talk about vampires, there's a couple extra tidbits about vampires that you must know from this world.
Okay.
So, vampire blood has incredible healing properties, as well as the ability to be used as a highly addictive drug.
Oh.
Very fun.
No.
Yeah. And if you drink a substantial amount of blood from a vampire, you will have sex dreams about them.
I can't.
It is a way for them to like kind of the way that the story get you to invite them in their house, get you to trust them. No! It's extremely manipulative and not okay, but this is fiction. And fiction is where we play with things that are wrong, but we find enticing.
I'm having the heebies.
It is also a really fun way that the show got to have basically sex scenes between characters that wouldn't normally have sex.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Like Jason, who is like pretty straight, ends up having to drink some of the other guy's blood, and so we get some like sex scenes between Jason and like other characters, and they're very sexy. There's one where he's like in a shower with one of the other
they probably knew people on fanfic.net would love
100%
love those moments.
It is excellent.
Gosh darn it. If AO3 I wonder if there's that. Keep going.
So they will also like after you drink a bunch of their blood, they will also be able to sense your fear and find you if you're in trouble. Which comes in very handy for Sookie, who is a fucking magnet for trouble. So very, very useful to have strong vampires who love you coming to fuck shit up if you're in trouble.
Okay.
Super useful. Okay. Also, invasive. It's fine.
Yeah.
Vampires can smell fairy blood. And it is particularly delicious because they say it smells like sunshine, which is why vampires like Sookie so much. And if a vampire drinks enough fairy blood, they can walk in the daylight for a short period of time. But usually that results in the death of said fairy. which is bad.
Okay.
So that's why she's so attractive to vampires specifically, but also apparently all other supernatural people, just for fun. So as much as Sookie is enamored with Bill, he is also enamored with her. Many things get in the way of their love. Only some of which being social obligations, it not being the right time, Bill turning into a pseudo-god version of Lilith, the first vampire that the fandom knows as, and the show calls Billith, because of course you would.
Very original.
And a very sexy, even older vampire named Eric Northman, who is the next person we're going to talk about. Okay. Eric Northman is played by Alexander Skarsgård, like a real life fucking Viking. Dude is gigantic, like blonde, blue eyes, like muscular, very attractive Viking guy. He is roughly 1,000 years old in the show. Owns a vampire nightclub called Fangtasia, where like vampires and humans mingle and things go down. He has a kick-ass progeny named Pam, who I mentioned. Oh. And he's also super not a good guy.
Oh, okay.
He's also
Why
really manipulative.
When you say that?
Because I love him so much. This coming from the girl who also preferred Spike to Angel in Buffy, so I have a problem. It's the bad guys.
Hey, at least you know it's a fictional problem.
It is a fictional problem, and also the only blonde guys that, like, it takes, like, I'm not super into blonde guys. I don't know. It takes a lot.
They just happen to be blonde.
These two evil vampire dudes just happen to be blonde. Spike, to be fair, is bleach blonde. It was a look in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
It was a
bleach
look.
Blonde tips?
Sometimes, kind of. Basically that look.
If bleach blonde tips ever come back,
don't.
I will write up a very long twit longer because I don't think that's a good look. Personally, don't think it's a good look.
Not great.
If you like it, you do you. I just think it's not very fun.
So, where Bill grapples with his darkness and hates being a vampire, Eric embraces it. He knows he's a monster and he acts accordingly. Super murderous, super manipulative, will do whatever it takes. He is almost amused by Sookie. He kind of, like, picks at her and, like, needles at her and, like he's kind of condescending at moments, and it just pisses her off, and he's doing it to piss her off because it likes it, like...
Oh.
like pulling a girl's pigtails, like he just annoys her.
Yeah,
he likes making her angry.
Alison's husband does that to me sometimes.
Not for the same reasons.
Not for the same reasons, but I know the feeling of someone being like, you hate this, and I know it, and I'll keep doing it. And then I'm like, fuck you!
But he ends up actually becoming, like, infatuated with her, which is not something that he normally does. She is a fairy. She's also just, like, a genuinely good person. I don't think he really has that a lot in his life.
Oh.
Because he really doesn't have that a lot in his life. Pam is a stone cold bitch, and I love her so much.
Stone cold bitches.
In the second season, he actually tricks her into drinking his blood. So the Church of the Sun sets off a bomb in a party.
Like tricks her how?
Yeah.
Like
I'm telling you.
Rape drug?
No.
Okay.
Manipulation. Just good old-fashioned lying.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
A member of the Church of the Sun bombs a party full of vampires, and Eric has some shrapnel in him. And although he would naturally heal and it pops out, he's like, it's silver, you have to suck it out, it's fine. And so she sucks out the bullet and, like, the shrapnel from it, and she gets some blood in his mouth, and then Bill shows up and he's like, the fuck, dude, you know you would heal those. And so he, like, calls out Eric's lie immediately, pisses Sookie off, and she's like, oh my god, you tricked me into drinking your blood. But now Sookie's having sex dreams about Eric.
Yeah. What a dick. What a dick!
But this also leads to one of my all-time favorite, like, sexy dreams, where Sookie, now having had Bill and Eric's blood, is explaining to the two of them how they should just be a throuple because she loves them both and they should all just be together. And it's amazing.
This is a lot.
It's the horniest show I've ever watched.
This is a lot.
Yeah. And she calls
How many more people has she dated?
There's 3.
5 total?
5 major men in her life. Yeah.
Are they all different creatures?
The next 3 are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not shaming her for dating a bunch of people. I want that to be clear.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm just surprised.
Yeah.
In the sense of, I hope they're all not manipulative assholes like Eric.
No, it's fine. And Eric, this is a perfect segue. Eric, in the season with the witches,
yes,
Marnie basically wipes his memory. And so he becomes kind of like an empty shell of himself.
Okay.
But it also, he's so much more innocent.
Is that good?
And kind and good, and Sookie finds him in his lost sort of state, and he's this he's so cute, and she brings him back to his little underground, because they have to sleep underground, so she brings him back to his little bunker, and he's asking her all these questions, and he's like, do I know you? Because he's like, oh, you smell delicious, and she's like, don't fucking eat me, and he doesn't. He's asking her all these questions. And vampires will often refer to a person who they're bonded with, especially a human, as mine. It's are you mine? It's so you can have ownership, and it basically is not it's not growth. It's more of a now other vampires can't touch you kind of thing. It's an honor system kind of weirdness. So if a human is claimed by a vampire, other vampires have to respect that.
Okay.
But he's like, are you mine? And she's like, no. And he's like, do you want to be? And she's like, no. So he's just so cute and innocent and adorable compared to the monster that he was before.
Does that stay the same, or does he eventually?
He eventually gets his memories back, but he also still remembers that time. And during that time, Sookie and him grow quite close, and she's actually no, he's
did he
this
experience kindness?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she will always have that that soft part of Eric that he doesn't show to anybody else, and he just shows to Sookie. Which is one of those things that I think a lot of women find attractive about certain villains, is that it's oh well, he's good for me and nobody else. It's I am the exception.
Oh my gosh, Ford and Jester from Critical Role. There's a moment where she's like, it's okay if you turn evil, just not to me.
Just not to me.
I'm like, I get that.
Yeah, it's it's okay.
I get that. I don't think it's great, but I get that.
Yeah, and it's one of those kind of fantasy explorations. It's fun things, but it's obviously I would never want a person like this in real life. Yeah. But it's TV, books, yes please. I will read that. I will watch that all day, every day. Love it. Great. So
I'm nodding
Eric
my head.
Is a perfect example of why so many people like that.
Okay.
Eventually he gets his memories back. But he also lets her Sookie gets to kind of explore her bad side. Oh. He's you don't have to be good all the time. And so he's kind of he kind of lets her realize that sometimes you have to do not good things. You can't always take the high road. Sometimes, especially in a world as messy and complicated as theirs, sometimes you have to do the morally maybe wrong things.
Yeah, sometimes so she hurt people's feelings. It's just
yeah,
sadly.
And so I think he balances her in a very interesting way.
Okay.
Where she learns a lot from him. They eventually just kind of part ways, and they always have that special connection, but they kind of just become really close friends.
Okay.
And it's kind of sweet and weird that that's how it ended up, but she can rely on him, and he still wants to keep her safe, and so that's kind of that comes in a bunch later, but we don't really have to talk about it. Okay. What matters is that he helped her explore her darkness.
Allison looks so she said that with the most tender eyes.
I love their relationship so much.
Are they the ones you wish would have maybe stayed together?
No.
Oh, okay, keep going.
And I will, like, at the very end, I will tell you how I think this should have ended, and it is not how it ended.
Oh, no. Sorry for you. I've been there.
Yeah. So, yeah, he helps her see the gray instead of just, like, black and white or, like, rose-colored glasses like she had on before. Next is Sam. Sam Merlot, the owner of the tavern. Or, not of the tavern.
I was going to say tavern.
D&D's in my brain.
Did we switch?
Local watering hole.
Yes.
That she's a waitress at. Okay. So Sam and her...
So her boss?
Her boss, her friend, peak friend zone guy, though. They never actually dated, but he loved Sookie for a very long time. He ends up finding a woman who he actually loves. He has a kid with. They kind of end up together with somebody else. Sam is a shifter. So he can take form of different animals. So he can turn into like a bird. He regularly turns into a dog. He turns into a dog a lot. God, it's a very cute dog.
No, I'm already like Sam.
I think you would like Sam. Sam also goes through some like dark shit. Okay. But everybody does.
It sounds like it's a dark show.
It's a very dark show. So he's always had a crush on Sookie. Something that she knew because of her mind reading powers, but the two never really got past that final hurdle. Like a couple times they teased it, but it never really like turned into a relationship.
Gotcha.
Despite them never really getting to that dating, he was so super important to Sookie's growth. He was dependable and reliable and would do anything for Sookie. But also when she starts letting this supernatural shit like come in between her life, like her job, her friends, like the people who she had built her like community around that she was kind of leaving behind, he fucking calls her out. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm not gonna keep, like, you don't just have a job here. You can't just come back and work whenever you want to and then miss a bunch of shifts. Mm-hmm. Like, I need fucking waitresses. I need people here. And it's kind of like, he's talking about it like it's the job, but it's like, I need you here from, like, I need my friend. I need, yeah. And so he calls her out, and,
It's good to call your friends out on things that are actually important.
Yeah.
Just saying in real life.
Yeah, and like he's like, yeah, like you manipulate me, like you use me, you know that I have feelings for you, and you prey on that. And it's like that's one of like Sookie's like flaws that I love so much. Is she wants to help everybody so much that she doesn't realize when she's hurting people. She doesn't like kind of look beyond. She doesn't see like the ramifications of her actions. So she can be like quite selfish. He does. He calls her out on that. In the later half of the show, actually, when she's feeling extremely low, she tries to seek comfort and affection from Sam. So she kind of goes to him after there's been so many like other times where she's like spurned him or like, which just happened a lot. And he turns her down because he can see right through that act. He's like, you're not coming to me because you genuinely want to be with me. You're coming to me because you want to be with anybody. And I'm just here. And it's so sad. And like, again, Sam has his problems, but he lets us see he lets us see those flaws, that like the little bit of like not goodness in Sookie and how she can be not great.
She's not perfect.
She's not perfect. Nobody is.
Nobody is.
It gives depth to her character, as we love so much.
Multitudes. People can be multitudes.
Yeah, and he was a really good character for that. In the books, I believe she ends up with Sam.
Is this one of those things where the shows differ from the books at a certain season?
I'm not sure. I didn't. That's just the one thing, because I specifically looked up who Sookie ended up with because of how the show ends. And it's like in the book she ends up with Sam, and the show is different. So I was like, okay, I didn't find a lot of other information about the books because I didn't go looking for it.
That's fair.
But I can see how that would have ended. But I am also happy that the show gave him like. It would have almost felt hollow for them to finally get together at the end after everything that they went through in the show, just to have them be like, oh, well, they were always meant to be together. Like, like the guy who crushed on her, and it's like, they both had grown so much and been through so much. I think it would have been disingenuous to the characters in the show for her to end up with him.
Okay.
Next up, though, is Alcide.
Okay.
Played by Joe Manganiello.
Really?
Yeah.
He's in this?
Yes, and he is topless like all the time because he's a werewolf.
Oh, strap me in, ladies. Ladies, guys, and non-binary pals, strap me in.
Yeah, you want to see like peak Joe Manganiello?
Yeah.
Go watch True Blood. He is.
I'm gonna look it up right now while you're talking.
Excellent.
I'll look it up right now while you're talking. Keep going, please.
Yes.
What's his name again?
Alcide. Alcide.
He's the top Google search.
He should be.
When I type Al.
Yeah. Your phone heard us talking about him. It's like, oh, you want to look this guy up? You want to see how he looks in the show? Fonda's...
Oh my god! What the fuck?
You're welcome?
I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I expect my werewolf men to have a little bit more fur on their body. He doesn't, but that's fine.
No.
I get why he doesn't.
Okay. Fonda's eyes keep like bulging out of her head as she looks at more pictures.
There's a water scene that I keep seeing.
There is. Yeah, there super is.
This one's really dumb. He's wearing like a thick cardigan and there's like, like air mist when it's too cold out, but there's like hot air and his body's out and I'm like, you should have pointed nipples, sir, because it looks cold. And he's just like doing like the smolder.
For the amount that he doesn't have a top on, I would not be surprised if he just got used to being naked outside.
That's fair. That's
because it's a lot. They do, along with shifters, they do have to get naked before they change. Otherwise, they will destroy their clothes.
I can't. Keep going.
Okay.
I've wasted so much time.
It's fine. It doesn't fucking matter. So they start off kind of just mostly being friends because he's dating somebody, Sookie's kind of with somebody else too.
Okay.
They're obviously attracted to each other, but they're both going through stuff.
Okay.
In the early seasons, much like Sam, he's a dependable friend to Sookie and regularly goes out of his way to help her, even if that means protecting or helping her vampire men that are just around, depending on how they're related to her.
Vampires and werewolves are still very much like they don't drive.
They don't super drive, especially Alcide. I'm not sure if at the beginning it's this way or not, but his pack, or the pack that he wanted to join, are like kind of in league with Russell Edgington. Actually, he is giving them his blood basically as like drugs, so that they'll be his like muscle. So he's like their drug dealer, and he disagrees with that. So Alcide's not really a super trusting of vampires, but he likes Sookie. So yeah. After the whole Billith arc, so when Bill goes crazy, it doesn't matter. Alcide and Sookie end up dating.
Cool.
And she loves him, but she also knows he loves her more than she loves him. Because she's still not really like let go of Bill. She like, it's something that she grapples with a lot. She's like, I love him and like I want to be with him and I like dating him, but like she feels guilty that she doesn't love him more than she feels, because she's not ready at this point to move on from that relationship. Unfortunately, in season 7 he dies, leaving Sookie brokenhearted. He gets shot protecting her. It's upsetting. I wept. I weep. I cry a lot at this show. It's fine.
Oh no!
So
not the werewolf.
I know. And after everything that he went to, and everything he went through to like have him like be like happy and with Sookie, and it was so upsetting.
No.
You know, he's the one that like I wish that they kept him alive, because I do believe that after we're going to touch on Bill again at the very end, but I think that after what happens at the end of the show between Sookie and Bill, I believe that she and Alcide could have actually been happy together, and she could have loved him the way that he deserved. And I think that they should have been together, but they killed him because why? But I don't know. I don't know why they killed him. They did. It was very upsetting. It kind of, in a way, was the way that he was treated, the way that a lot of women are treated in shows, where he was killed for Sookie's character development. We needed Dark Sookie. During that, like, heavy zombie vampire, we needed Sookie, who is fucking broken, ready to do whatever it takes to protect the people who are alive. So it's kind of played that way, which is upsetting and sad.
I'm not a fan of that sort of thing at all.
Yeah. But yeah, like, again, we get to witness her, like, going through this grief. There's this really sad moment where she's talking to one of her friends, Arlene, about how Arlene got over the death of her husband. And she's like, sometimes I'd wear his jacket. And so a couple times we see Sookie, like, wearing Alcide's jacket because it still smells like him. And it's like his arms are around her again. And it's fucking... so fucking sad.
Oh no. I would do that. I would do that.
It is so sad and so sweet. And yeah, like, just that little, like, glimpse of, like, happiness for her, but it wasn't, like, we weren't ready to end it there yet.
Why?
Because
why can't shows just...
Because they want pain. That's what this show is about.
I hate...
So...
just like, get rid of all expectations of you being a show that's like pain and drama and all these things, and just be like, no, we're actually going to have a really good season ending. It's going to be good. We're not going to add any drama. It's going to be great. We're going to have a good time.
Nope.
I don't know why my voice is talking like this. I'm holding in my breath.
Yeah.
Because I'm sad.
So yeah, like, we get to see, like, Sookie's, like, growth and a chance to happiness, and unfortunately it ends. And now we're gonna quickly touch on Warlow. Because how can I not talk about Warlow?
Oh, yes. Sorry, we've talked about a lot of characters.
We have talked about a lot of characters.
Who he was.
And the best part is that now, since we've talked about these ones in particular, they're going to come up so much in the other ones that, at least hopefully by me talking about them so much, you will actually remember their names, and everything will be a little bit easier in the next couple episodes. So the last new guy is Warlow, played by Robert Kaczynski. So this is kind of before her and Alcide get together. Like, this is, like, kind of chronologically, it's before that. Warlow is a vampire fairy.
A what?
Yeah. So Warlow is the one, as far as the show is concerned, the one and only vampire fairy. So the reason why Warlow wanted a fairy bride is because he wanted to make another fairy vampire, because he was lonely. But fairies are so hard to come by that he needed another, like, half-breed fairy, which would be Sookie, in order to have them be human enough to turn into a vampire at the same time. So he is a vampire who can walk in the daylight because he is a half-fairy. Yeah. Yeah.
My
arguably one of the most wild parts of the show.
Never thought I'd see that combo, not gonna lie.
No.
I've heard about werewolf vampire combos because of, what's that one movie? Underworld.
Yep.
I've heard of, like, just anything but a vampire fairy combo.
Yeah. So this was, like, a particularly tumultuous time for Sookie as well.
Okay.
Because she is having this, like, crisis of identity.
Okay.
And love, and she's grappled, like, for a long time about if she wants to keep her fairy powers or not, if she wants to turn back into a human. And so she's having, like, all these crazy thoughts. Okay. And then along comes Warlow, and, like, in that place of, like, confusion and stress, it's like, well, isn't this a nice answer to everything?
Oh.
A person who wants to love me, wants to be with me.
Can she read his mind because he's not fully vampire? Okay.
They can sort of read each other's minds, but it kind of alludes to the fact that he can choose what she hears,
okay.
but fairies can hear each other.
Okay.
So it's like a moment of weakness for her where she's like, maybe this is my answer. Maybe my answer isn't Bill or Eric or Sam or Alcide or like any of these other guys that she's met. Maybe it's this guy who's waited for me for like hundreds of years kind of thing. And it kind of, she builds it up in her brain, which is not great. Especially because like he lies to her the first time they meet. She doesn't know that he's Warlow. He's like, I'm Ben, I'm super nice guy. And they kind of like hit it off because she kind of thinks he's hot, but he's like, she meets him in the daytime and he's like super injured and she's like, well, obviously this isn't a vampire, and she can kind of hear his thoughts and he kind of answers her. So she's like, oh, you're another fairy. And so like at first he kind of gets in there by tricking her into thinking that he's just another fairy, and then she finds out that he's Warlow. And, like, instead of being, like, obviously she's upset that he lied to her, but instead of remaining upset, she's like, well, maybe we'll just get together. Like, maybe we'll just fall in love. And that's...
Sookie!
I know!
Sookie! Sookie, no!
Sookie,
No!
So...
Oh no, I know.
It's so bad. And then it's twisted in with like an act of rebellion against her parents too, because her parents wanted to kill her because like they were planning on killing her and like doing that. And then Lafayette, because Lafayette has his own kind of like medium powers, he ends up channeling her father, and her father in the body of Lafayette lliterally tries to fucking kill her again. Because of Warlow. And so she's just so fucked in the head, and she's like, "This will be fine."
Okay, I get the context. I still don't agree.
It's so bad,
but I get the context.
Yeah,
needed.
It's like just the whole time you're just like, "Sookie, don't do it, don't do it."
Oh,
Sookie.
My shoulders are up and my jaw is clenched, and I feel very not good about this. I need to go see my chiropractor tomorrow.
So this relationship highlighted Sookie's biggest weakness, which is her desire for love. Like this whole show, she's wanted love. She's wanted that connection, that thing that she didn't have because her parents died when she was younger, and like she couldn't connect with anybody. And it's like, it's so bad. And she was so desperate to be loved, to find her happily ever after, that she was willing to even give him a chance of all people. But like during this time, she was like, I don't want to like get married right away. So like, why don't we date? So she was literally willing to give him a chance to date. And he basically like fucking snaps and is like, fuck you. I've waited long enough. We're getting married right fucking now. And like, she ends up like, Bill figures out what's going on and he brings along Jason, and they kind of like, they're able to like rescue Sookie, and Jason ends up killing Warlow. But yeah, like he just like that switch got flipped, and his nice guy, I love you, we're gonna be happy together forever, just turned off, and he's like, no, I'm tired of waiting, and it gets very dark, and it's not good. But very happy that happened, and it helped her on the way to realizing that maybe she does trust people too much. Like, maybe that's a bad idea. So... back to Bill. Let's end on Bill, because their relationship is like the core to the whole show, is how they've like grown and everything.
He's not Billith, right? Not
no, he's gotten past that. Things happened. He's himself again. But unfortunately, in the final season, Sookie contracts Hep V. And humans can be carriers of it, but they are not affected by it. But then they can pass it to other vampires.
If their blood is...
If their blood is there. And because of Sookie's fairy blood, it's actually speeding up the virus. And so Bill is dying quicker. And a lot of the season is spent with Sookie trying to, like, fight this. And trying to be like, no, like, we can heal you, we can do this. Like, you and I can be together. Because they're finally, like, reconnecting and finding each other again. And Bill's like, no, I want to die. And they clash on this, and they fight. And eventually he asks her, he like kind of explains, he has a nightmare about Sookie having a baby in her arms, and he comes up and it's just like a black void instead of an actual baby. Because he's like, he can never give her a baby. Yeah. He can never give her the life that he wants for her.
Yeah.
And he's always hated being a vampire, so it kind of fits that he's like, I don't want to condemn you to a life like this.
Okay.
So he asks her to kill him. To give him the true death, is what it's called.
Okay.
And to use the last of her light to kill him. So that then she can become human, she'll be safe from vampires, and he will die at her hands instead of the extremely painful way of dying by this virus.
Okay.
So she doesn't agree at first, but at a little wedding ceremony for his progeny, Jessica, who we'll talk about, who he basically sees as like a pseudo-daughter, she can actually start hearing Bill's thoughts. And because the closer to death he's getting, the more human he's getting again. And so it's this kind of like weird little thing. So she can hear his final thoughts and how he's thinking of Sookie and of how he wants her to get married and to find love and have a family and like all those things that you would want the man that you love to think about you.
Yeah.
But he knows that can't be with him. And so Sookie agrees, and they go to the graveyard, and he literally, like, she fucking organizes, like, the hole that he's gonna fucking, like...
Okay.
Like, they dig up the grave, because when he was turned into a vampire, he disappeared from this town. This was his hometown. And so he has a grave there, but there's no body in it.
Okay.
So his family put a grave there for him. So they actually dig up his existing grave, and he's, like, in the coffin, waiting, and she's like, I can't get rid of my light. I can't kill you that way. Because that's a part of her. She spent this entire show also
accepting
herself.
Okay.
Instead, she fucking, like, gets a stake and she gets into the coffin with him, and with his help, she stakes Bill. And it's so fucking sad. And she's like ugly crying.
I would be too.
Like, it is so upsetting.
I would.
And it's like, it's like, it sounds bad to say like this is the way that it had to end, but this is the way that their story
had to end. Them based off of
everything that they've been through. And like, she just sits there because like when you stake them, they kind of like blow up into like a weird like puddle of blood essentially. So she's sitting there just like soaked in his blood, just fucking weeping. And it's so touching and so sad and good and like fulfilling. That like that part of the final season is very fulfilling. I think that the way that her and Bill's story wrapped up was good, and I liked it. I don't know about other people, and I didn't look that up because I didn't want to feel bad. And then after that, the story kind of cuts, and then we jump ahead to the future where we see Jason, and he's found somebody that he loves, and he has kids, and Sam has kids with the woman that he loves, and like there's like this little party that they're having, and Sookie's pregnant, and she's bringing out a platter of food, and then she's like, we see the back of a guy who I think was like a stunt guy that they just like brought in because we never see his face, and she kisses him and she sits down and we never see his face. It's like this faceless human, or this faceless person who she can have children with. And that's it. She's happy. Everybody who's still alive in Bon Temps is happy. And it's like, here's the ending. And it's like, it's kind of anticlimactic. And like, you kind of feel like sad about it. But it's like, well, Sookie couldn't end up with Bill. That wasn't going to fucking happen. Sookie couldn't end up with Eric. That wasn't going to fucking happen. Like, Eric wasn't going to change that much. She couldn't end up with Sam because Sam had his person. And they didn't belong together, and she couldn't end up with Warlow, because Warlow is now dead and a jackass. And it's like, and then Alcide is dead, who's like, I wish they hadn't killed Alcide, because I think that after Bill was gone, Sookie could have grieved and had her time away. And then her and Alcide could have found their actual, like, happiness together, and that is my wish, and it didn't happen, but it's okay. Sookie can be happy with her faceless human
figure.
Her faceless human figure person. And there's like her vampire friend, like a couple of her friends are vampires around the table, so it's like this very like connected, like she's found like a family unit again, where like everything's been so disjointed everywhere else. This little scene is like, her brother's okay.
Okay, just checking.
He goes through some shit.
Okay, just checking he's there by the end.
He's there by the end. He goes through a lot of women. A lot of his girlfriends die. Like a lot of his girlfriends
I'm
die.
sorry I asked.
For a while he goes a little bit crazy and like joins that church, that like hate group church, like against vampires. He has some issues.
Okay.
But he comes around.
Okay. Okay. Just kidding. Okay.
So yeah, I really love Sookie as a character. She is messy and emotional and selfish, but also kind and forgiving and good. She gets to wield these like crazy fairy light magic powers, and she gets to fuck monsters and fall in love and learn about like good and evil in the world. She's not perfect, but since when have I ever liked a perfect character? It's not my thing. This will obviously not be the last that I talk about Sookie, since the next episodes we will have more time to explore her story, how her story weaves in with other female characters, and you will get to hear about all the fabulous ladies that I just kind of skimmed past. But this is a solid, long beginning, and I hope the next episodes are not as long as this. Hopefully you have like a long drive or something. So, what are you excited about right now, Fonda?
Well, on the topic of monster fucking, Sorry. I saw Venom Let There Be Carnage last night. And that's... Are you okay? No. Is it how I said it?
Just that was not what I was expecting to come out of your mouth.
That's fair. I saw Venom Let There Be Carnage last night in theaters.
That's exciting.
My husband took me because I really loved the first one a lot. Like, I don't care what anyone has to say. It was the best movie ever. I swear to God. And when Venom Let There Be Carnage has been out for a while now, and I was like, I need to see it, like, I gotta see it, and like, we were hesitant on going to theaters because of everything still, and then we kind of went on a Thursday night. There wasn't that many people.
Oh, nice.
It was the best thing
I know, I want to see it,
but I recommend it. You are going to be able to buy it on YouTube for anyone that's the only place I know where as soon as it's out for rent, it's on YouTube. I don't know where else it will be for streaming services. But, oh boy, there's a scene where Eddie Brock's feeling emotional, and he's just like talking to Venom, and he's like, why does things matter? If I get a hangover, if you can heal it. If I break a nose or a foot, you can heal it. He's talking about all the things that Venom can heal, and Venom's like, but I can't fix a broken heart.
Oh my god.
And I died because it's just like this moment, spoiler warning, where like Eddie's just so sad, and he says a painful, like a really mean comment to Venom, and Venom's like, I'm only gonna accept it because we are hurting. Oh. And I was just like, I can't get over them together. It's so good. It's so good. I just can't talk about it enough. Highly recommend it.
Yes.
I highly recommend it.
I'm looking forward to it.
And I just, monster fucking because it's an alien monster.
Yep. If you're interested in an episode about specifics of monster fucking in regards to Venom, Fake Geek Girls did an incredible podcast episode that just is like titled Venom. I can't remember what episode number it is.
Okay.
But they get into the like scientific, logistical, like,
why people
educational
like
purpose of why monster fuckers exist. And it's surprisingly informative.
I'll keep that in mind. But anyways, I just really liked it. It was good. It was
that's awesome.
Fun. I really like how Tom Hardy delivered his acting for it. It was very fun. I found a little bit scarier than the first one, but that's just because of Carnage.
I love Carnage so much.
He freaks me the fuck out. I can't do it. But he's funny too.
Yeah.
He had some moments in it where I was just like, oh, I don't want to laugh, but okay. It was a funny line.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about right now. I'll probably watch it again once I can. So, dear listeners, ending you off on more monster fucking comments, you can find us wherever.
One of our arguably horniest episodes?
right? Who's to say? I mean, horny on Maine, as the kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. You
know.
can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Wench Bench Pod. And if you want to reach out, maybe you have more things that have to do with monster fucking, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. I'm almost done. All the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Wervile. She's in Tokyo right now, looking like they're having a great time.
Ooh.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Fuck. I don't care.
Push the button.
Yeah, you better be.
Oh my god.
Shut up, Fonda.
He did the thing! He did the thing! I told you!
What's the
We were
thing?
talking about how you tease and like pester Fonda.
No,
Yes, you did!
understand.
That was interesting!
Oh,
Get out of
crazy
here.
dog.
It's so shocked looking.
So
It's all just in your head, Fonda.
Oh my god!
literally all-
No,
Get
outta
it's not. No, it's
Literally
not.
all just you.
Definitely not.
Everybody's normal except you.